got the worst keynote spot for the day because I'm everything that stands between you and lunch. So right now your stomach is battling your brain, so this is a pretty tough job for me to try to pull off here. I want to thank Campaign for inviting me here today. Really thankful. Believe it or not, it's actually my first time in Hong Kong, so super excited to be here. I'm from quite a different part of the world. I'm from Denmark, so excuse my Lego brick in the mouth English. I'll try to do my best. I don't know how many of you know where Denmark is. No, not really. That's the little bump that sticks out of the ass of Germany. So that's kind of my country. I've heard so much interesting stuff today and so many smart people here in the room. So one thing I definitely can't do today is really teach you anything about media. I can't really teach you a lot about advertising either. You're all very seasoned advertising professionals. But what I want to achieve here today is really to remind you of something that you're actually quite good at, but we just forget it when we got our heads up in the ad cloud and we have all this marketing jargon about automatic and pre-roll ads and all that stuff. And it's something we're good at, and it's actually just to be human, to be ourselves. And this is really one of the things that I want to talk about, because too often we talk about people as employees, as target groups, or as consumers. And I think if that's the way we look at them, that's how we're going to treat them. So I think it's so important that we get back to the fundamentals and actually look at people as people. Because I think we're at a time in history where it's not about brand first, but it's actually about people first. A little bit about myself. So my name is Thomas, and I'm the author of the Green Book up there. I'm also the director of the Goodvertising agency. We're not really like an agency. We're probably more of a consultancy type, whatever. So we work within the space of sustainability, CSR, but also trying to put purpose into brands. So the whole name Goodvertising is, of course, advertising as a force for good. It might sound a bit naive, but I'm going to come back to that. I worked in the industry for about 16 years now. I started out as a young, hopeful copywriter, ambitious, but always feeling a little bit at odds about the role of advertising and what I was doing. But it actually took me about 7 to 8 years to actually really question the line of work that I was doing. So the last couple of years, my mission has actually been this. We have made you buy shit, but can we make the world better too? So that's the thing that's been driving me. And I really think that we are at a time in history where that is possible. But the one question that I want you guys to reflect on, and the one question that pushed me in that direction, was really this one. What value does advertising bring to your life? I think it's a question that we way too often forget to ask ourselves because we're too busy with solving the next client brief. We're too busy with our day-to-day work. So what value does advertising bring to your life? I'm not only talking about, your life as a professional. I'm sure you all have a pretty good, handsome paycheck, so that's at least one value that advertising brings to your life. But as people, what value does advertising bring to you as people? And I think, for me, most of the time, advertising is really a zero-sum game, where the brand wins every time over me sitting there on the couch, stealing my time, interrupting me, all that stuff. And I don't get, why is our industry, why are we trying to build value like that? One of the easy examples is, of course, the pre-roll ad. Everybody in here is probably, the only thing you guys are looking at is the skip button, right? True? We're in the media business. Try to place yourself in people's shoes and think, what is it that we're doing to people? Why are we trying to involve them like that? The second thing, and this is an argument, so what value does advertising bring? And I think one argument I started out as a creative, and probably the thing I was fascinated about was the whole idea about advertising as entertainment, as something really, really engaging. And to be honest, what I love about advertising is still when the craft is well made, when it's humorous, when it's good storytelling. But most of the time, it's not. And I think for a lot of the time, the advertising that is not that good, that's not well crafted, is ruining it for the rest of us. Secondly, I think we still think, and we're stuck in this mindset where we think we have the monopoly on entertainment. And I think we've been talking, there's been other keynotes that have been talking about this, that we are not the only content producers anymore. So there's so much content out there that we're competing with. So many people trying to be entertaining. If we look at the world's biggest media company, Facebook, we're all content producers at Facebook. You know, uploading funny cat videos, posting a photo from this event. So that's the kind of entertainment we're up against. And I think most of the time we probably neglect that because we think we're the best storytellers and we see stuff like this.
Look what I can do.
Horrible. I hate it. But anyway, so this is some of the stuff. When we look at people who create entertainment, that's how we look at it. And we say, we're great storytellers. But this is, in fact, the stuff that we'll be up against. Let me just see if I can skip that again. Oh, horrible. So we have to come to the point where we have to realize that people don't like advertising. So people don't really value the job that we're doing. So in a way, we're at this standstill where people, I think I'm actually a slide to, doesn't matter. Sorry. So if this is the starting point of our conversation, to say people don't like advertising, so how can we bring value back to advertising? And I think, for the most part, we're still stuck in the mindset where our brand is king. I don't know if any of you know where the word branding actually comes from. Anybody? So the word branding actually comes from the Old West, where you'd have cowboys taking a hot iron and branding their animals. And I think for most of us, we still are stuck in this push mentality. So in this survey, it was asked marketeers how many of them actually believed that they delivered great consumer experiences. 80% said yes. And let's just see how many of you believe that you deliver great consumer experiences. So hands up and be honest and truthful here. How many of you believe you deliver great consumer experiences? No? Come on. None of you? That's a quite depressing state. Let me see some honest hands up here. Who of you deliver great consumer experiences? At least there's one brand here. Google probably does it as well. It's the confidence of the room. Sorry about starting off on a negative note. The thing is, though, that when we ask people, they're apparently agreeing with you very much, because only 8% of people actually agree. So there's a big gap between us pushing out messages and people talking back. And I think it all has to do with a brand is not what you're telling people it is, but what people tell each other it is. So we're stuck in this. And in Elise's words, she says, I hate Dunkin' Donut commercials. They make their coffee sound delicious, but in fact, it's disgusting sludge. So we can't get away with it anymore. We can't keep pushing these messages out there. And I think all of you are very familiar with ultra-transparency and all those things. So the whole media space has changed. And I think it really is about coming back to some of the more human principles. So when we have big brands like Coca-Cola that goes out there and they talk about the happiness factory or the new creative universe that is all about taste the feeling, the problem is that they don't have the monopoly on that story. That the tip of the iceberg is the advertised story, but everything underneath the water level, how is that product made, under what circumstances, how do you treat your employees, do they pay tax, all that stuff, most of the time we ignore it. So when Coca-Cola comes out with a happiness factory and says taste the feeling, the problem is a lot of people might have a bad taste in their mouth when we talk about Coca-Cola, or might not look at Coca-Cola as the fun factory, but rather as the fat factory. And that gets them on the front cover of Bloomberg. Bloomberg wasn't paying me to put that in there, but I just really like that little subtitle, would you believe I'm just big-boned? So the problem essentially is that, for the most part, people are beginning to see brands as the problem. And I just came back from, in December, the World Climate Summit, the COP21. So this is this ongoing series of negotiations. Finally, we got a little bit of a good result out of it. During that week, there was an art group called Brand Vandalism, and they took over 1,500 billboards in the city of Paris with something that's called mockvertising. So this is not from the actual brand. So they're criticizing Air France. Tackling climate change? Of course not. We're an airline. And the tagline? Part of the problem. So we have to get back to the fact that brands is all about relationships. It's about relationships between people and your brand. And I really like how Hugh coins this. If you talk to people the way advertising talk to people, they'd punch you in the face. So we're at a point in time where I think we really need to change the model. And I'm not talking about incremental change. I'm not talking about you guys having to think about whether you should hire more people in the social media department, whether you should move some of your budget from TV over to digital. What I really want you to think about is how can we rewire this model? How can we restart the conversations? And for me, it's really about brands taking a bigger responsibility and creating a more meaningful and purposeful role in our lives. And this is actually something that people would agree with. Because although we've done them so much bad, and although that in most relationships people don't forgive, people are actually willing to forgive us and forgive brands. And 70% of people do believe that brands should come up with solutions to some of society's biggest challenges, such as unemployment and climate change. We just saw Google up here talk about how they want to bring internet to more people. We heard Uber talk about earlier today how they actually want to solve some of the infrastructure challenges in terms of more congested cities. So the mindset is not pushing out messages, but actually being part of the cultural fabric, being part of the conversations that people have. There's nothing worse sitting at a dinner party next to a prick that only talks about himself all the time. And that's what we're doing at the moment as brands. We need to change that. So let's just explore a different type of conversation. So what I want you to do is raise your hand if this is something that you aspire to or something you believe in, okay? Pretty simple. So how many of you would actually like to exercise more on a daily basis? Let me see your hands up. Good, okay, you're all actually looking very fit and slim, so no reason anyway. Who are concerned about online privacy, either from government or from companies? Online privacy? Some concerned people in there? Who's concerned about climate change? That's probably the most hands I've seen in a long time, to be honest. Who's concerned about a small little topic as animal cruelty? Who's concerned about Hong Kong's economy? Good. I wish every marketing director in the world could see, and every agency people in the world could see these hands, because every one of these hands is an opportunity to connect around a topic that's much more meaningful. Things that we talk about in our daily lives, human issues that that people really want brands to solve. So they're actually stretching their hand out and says, we want these things. And think about it in a Facebook news feed. I mean, most of the time, you're plugging products. If you look at the conversation that people are talking about, that's issues like this. Issues like the concerned mother who wants to know what is actually in that box of cereal she's feeding her children. And brands are embracing this. And one of the brands that I think has been on quite a transformative journey recently, probably most of you have seen it at this year's Cannes Lion, was the P&G brand Always. I'm quite sure that all of you have seen the Always Like a Girl commercial. We can just roll a little bit of it. You have all seen it, right? Hands up. Everybody seen it?
Hi, Aaron.
Or should we can watch it. We can watch it.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do. I just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
Here.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aww. My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swing like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. Doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean window?
I keep being touched by it every time I see it, I must say. A company that's really been excellent at plugging products and making jingle sticks in our head. I'm quite sure that all of us can remember a jingle from a P&G commercial at some point. This was hugely successful, not that one can always say that just because it had 80 million views it was successful, but they sparked conversations. So for me, the thesis I work with and the whole idea about Goodvertising is really moving back to the core of listening to people, trying to put yourself in people's shoes and seeing what conversations can your brand solve. And that's really changing the skill sets and what we need to do as media companies and advertisers. And it's that simple. And these days, I really see companies stepping up to the challenge. I don't know how many of you know who this guy is. Some of you. Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. And the interesting thing is the headline, what does Starbucks know about America? This used to be the role of governments to know stuff about America. But certainly, what you probably can't see there, the tick boxes, is Starbucks going into things like education, into veterans, into homelessness, and really trying to tackle some of this stuff heads on. These days, talk is cheap, and I think it's about living your brand values and proving that you do care about people. And this is a tactic that do pay off. This year in Cannes, Keith Weed, the global CMO, took on stage to actually talk about proving that what is good for people and planets is also good for brand and bottom line, and saying that now the sustainable brands in the Unilever portfolio make up half the revenue, and their sustainable brands, their purposeful brands, actually grow twice as fast. So this should be a stark reminder of what this and why this is so important. But I'm going to give you kind of four key things in terms of kind of changing and turning this around. The first one is really move away from making people want things to actually solving needs. For too long, our industry has been about pushing products out there. For me, I always had a little bit of a beef with Kellogg's because they actually started out as a very purposeful company. They invented the cornflakes at a health sanatorium. Today, they do things like these, the Cocoa Pops. So what's wrong with Cocoa Pops? I mean, it's a cute little monkey trying to lure parents and kids into buying it, but the sugar content is the same as the Snickers bar. So I think that is not what we should be proud of as an industry. Rather, we should look at what needs can we solve. I mean, Uber, Google today has been a great example of solving real stuff out there. This is another example. I don't know how many of you know the Volvo Life Paint. Again, Volvo actually made quite a bold commitment. By 2020, nobody should be seriously injured or killed in one of their cars. Think about how bold a statement that is. And this really changes what we as agencies and marketeers can do. So the thing that came out of that was actually this little Life Paint. So an adhesive fluorescent paint that you can spray on your bike, that you can spray on your helmet or on your clothing to actually add more safety. I come from Denmark, bicycle crazy city, so I absolutely love this product. Probably don't have time to go into this. The second things I want to share with you is really, and I think that's always been at the core of what brands was about, creating aspirations and creating change. And I think we can do that in a much more meaningful way if we look at really trying to improve people's lives. So, for example, if we go into Apple, probably all of you know the Health app. I think it's great that Apple takes responsibility. You can track your health and you can improve your health. A second one I want to share with you. Could I have the next slide on the monitor, please? A second thing I want to share with you is, of course, look for opportunities to create value instead of interruption. So if we look at BMW, they're not looking at selling cars anymore. They're looking at providing transportation. So they are certainly sitting next to the Mayor of London and talk about how can we together solve these congested cities, because they cannot sell more cars necessarily. They can't put more cars on the streets. So one of the things they have launched is the Drive Now program. I don't know if that's in Hong Kong yet. Nope. It's recently been launched in Denmark, and what they've done is they've taken 400 cars at public transit areas, and you can use your mobile phone, you can unlock it, you can drive it in for half an hour, whatever, and you pay for the time you use it. So again, try to create real value instead of interruption. I can't remember who talked about the fourth revolution and how business is really rapidly changing. Just because Fortune magazine says it, it's not necessarily true. But we are facing quite a dramatic digital disruption. And I think that has a big influence on our industry as well. If you just look at the lifetime and the average lifespan of a company, in 1920 it was 75 years old. Today it's 14. So a lot of the brands that we see on this slide, Fun, Uber, whatever they're called, they didn't exist a couple of years ago. Now they are big multinational companies. Why is this so important in an advertising context? It is so important because these companies are based on people first. They're based on empowering people. I use Airbnb, I'm traveling a lot, so I rent out my place on Airbnb. So the fun thing is, if I'm in a city, I'm staying with somebody as a guest. When I'm out traveling, I'm actually a supplier. So when I ask the big question, what value does advertising bring to your life? These guys bring a hell of a lot of value to my life because they create value for me. They turn me into an advocate for the brand. So this is some of the stuff that you are up against. So this is really not about enslaving people more. This is not about the zero-sum game of advertising, but this is really about how can you really, truly, genuinely create value. Another quick example, I don't know how many of you know this example from American Express. So they, during the financial crisis, it was pretty hard to sell credit card solutions, especially to small shop owners in the US. So what they actually did was they created a campaign to support these small shop owners. So a day dedicated where they encourage people to go and shop in their small local stores. So it created an immense value for these local, these small store owners. And what's probably even more importantly, actually it's become a regular day now in the US, and it's been endorsed by President Barack Obama. I don't know how often you do an advertising campaign that's being endorsed by a president. How much time do I have again? Somebody can, 2 minutes, okay.
Every day we throw away millions.
So we don't have time for that little video. I don't know how many of you saw this story make the rounds, because I want to make this a personal appeal as well. This was an art director who got diagnosed with cancer, and on his deathbed he was actually writing this blog post about how he might have wasted most of his commercial career in advertising. And he asked this big question: can you actually marry commercial arts with meaning and purpose? And I actually do believe we can do that. I actually do believe that we as agencies, as brands, as media agencies, can do something better with the time and the power of communication. And often I hear, you know, especially brands say, but how can you change? I mean, we weren't born with a purpose. But I think you don't have to be born with a purpose. I think everybody got the possibility to stand up for change. And even in my own life, if I looked at it, I worked half my life in advertising, stuck in the rat wheel. And at some point I said to myself, I actually want to change this. I want to change that advertising industry to something better, because I'm passionate about our ability, our creative ability. I'm passionate about the storytelling, and we could use that for something good. So, again, the big thing here is I do believe that doing something good for people and planet is also good for people and planet. And again, we have to go back to that central question about, you know, what is the real value of advertising. I think we're stuck in a model. But Einstein once defined insanity as doing the same mistakes over and over and over again, but expecting a different outcome. And I think today we actually have the possibility to change the model and change the outcome by being bold enough to try to be more human and think about the real value of advertising. So thank you so much. Lunch is awaiting, and please do reach out if you have any questions. I'm going to do a bit of a book signing also during the lunch break. So thank you so much for being patient and keeping your brain battling the stomach. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Thank you, Raj.